Welcome to the second week of our course on organization behavior. So last week I just introduced the class. Today I will talk about the first two chapters of your book. So your book is quite an impressive book. It goes on for 14 chapters and a total amount of almost 700 pages. So there is a lot to study. But don't worry, because I would say a large part of these pages are examples, questions, exercise for you to do in order to make sure that you understand what the content of the book is about. So the real content is much less. And this is the focus of my lecture today and the next few weeks, to extract the content from each chapter and just summarizing this content to you so you are prepared when you start reading your book. So today we look at the first two chapters, very easy chapters, I would say. The first chapter, of course, is about organization or organizational behavior. We will see that the book sometimes use one or the other of the expressions. And so what it is, why is important, why we spend 10 weeks around the subject. And the second chapter is about basically the demographics. So if organizational behavior is the behavior that people have at work, what is exactly what we find at work? What is the population, the people we find at work? And this is chapter 2. So no matter, I would say, let's move on immediately to see chapter 1. So as I said last week, organizational behavior is the study of how people behave at the workplace. As I said last week, each of us behave in a different way in different situations. I'm not the same when I am at work and when I am at home. So why is very important to study how the people behave at work? So let me step back for a second and explain what is the workplace. The workplace is nothing else that a bunch of individuals or the same individual united in groups, or the all individuals um, uh, considered together as an organization. So the people in an organization are considered through three different angles: as an individual, as a member of a group, and as a member of the organization. So the group is basically the intermediate institution between the individual and the organization. And so why, now that we understand what is the workplace, why is it important to understand the behavior of individuals, as members of a group, or as part of an organization? Well, of course, from the point of view of the employers, so basically who is paying the employee, is very important, because to understand what is right, what is wrong, and how he can or she can improve the performance of these people, make these people more happy or more productive, is of course, a part of managing an organization. In other way, to understand the skills that are necessary at work, the motivation that the people have at work, makes the employers able to, I would say, manage these people that are part of organization as individuals, as member of a group, or as members of the organization. So it's very important. It's part of management. Your book then goes into, is organizational behavior um, like just common sense. So basically, we know because we are individual ourselves and we work ourselves how people feel. And so it's just another organizational behavior is just another word for common sense. And the answer is no. Actually, it's a high sophisticated branch of knowledge that is exactly part of managing people. And managing people is one of the most difficult things for a manager to do. How can we study organizational behavior? So, how can we collect information? And so, your book enters into this topic and shows very briefly, I would say, the different methods um, through which we can learn about organizational behavior. One case, one tool is the survey. Basically, we prepare a list of questions and we ask people about the different topics we want to investigate. So this is one way. But there are others. For example, there are laboratory studies. So basically, in which, for example, a group of individuals is studied in a laboratory, basically in a investigated situation. Or another way is to build a case study. So there are different ways in which we can collect information. So organizational behavior is not a new discipline. It's been around for many years, I would say, at least for half a century. And of course, because is an old discipline, so it comes with a different layers of understanding. For example, one of the topics is it is ethical to study people in order to increase the performance of these people. Another way is do we have to engage people in order that these people may be more productive? Yeah, you will see that most of these questions will be responded in the book. But to be easily answered, we say, yeah, in the past, the motivations of the employees were not very much considered. Today, instead, the motivation of the people is probably the most important thing that the employers are looking at. What they want, of course, is that people are motivated so that they can bring passion in whatever they do. This is, as you see, is the first chapter, very easy chapter, very easy pieces of information. Let's move on to the second chapter. As I said, the second chapter is about the demographic. So basically, who are the people that actually are in a workplace? But this chapter in your book is framed in terms of diversity, cultural diversity. And we will see it's not just the cultural diversity, it's also demographic diversity. Demographic diversity means that at work, you find people that are young and old, people that are male and female, people that belong to different races, people that are local or coming from abroad. This is basically the demographic diversity. The cultural diversity means that the people come with different worldviews. Maybe they come from different countries, or maybe from different parts of the United States, or different parts of China, or different parts of India. So basically, not necessary the people in the organization share the same worldview. And so, of course, this is the chapter to understand this idea of diversity. And in the next chapters, of course, sometime we will have something about, well, okay, but if the workplace is a place of demographic and cultural diversity, how we can manage this diversity. That will become the question. So this is an American book, and like most of American books, the book is I would say is very positive about diversity, and so the book doesn't discuss the idea of diversity. It rather begins with the benefits of diversity, and the book comes with different elements. For example, you better understand and service the customers if you have a diverse organization, because different people can understand different problems. Or you have a lower litigation expenses because people are used to be able to basically confront this diversity and find peaceful way to um, accommodate. But of course, there are some, and the book also says the performance of companies with higher diversity, a level of diversity is higher. Of course, there are also some um, disadvantages in diversity. For example, there are a few of them in this book. But for example, one is the stereotypes. Stereotypes is basically a generalization. When we say, "Oh, white people are blah blah blah," or females are or women are blah blah blah, and so basically we take a general view of a larger community, and we apply this judgment to all the population without considering the differences within the population itself. Um, but this is one problem. You will find others. For example, one of the problem is still now, at least in the United States, but I think most of the world, the women are paid less than men to do exactly the same job. And this is another topic that your book is addressing. Um, um, Another kind of a special kind of diversity is race diversity. To be honest, it's not a special kind of diversity, but in the US it is, because there is a long time problem with race. And so it becomes, at least in the United States, a special element of diversity that deserves a particular attention. This is not true, for example, in other countries. For example, in England or Great Britain, this race diversity is less problematic. In France, is less problematic, and so on. But in the U.S., it is, and because this book it was written in the U.S., you will find this emphasis on race. Of course, race diversity is not the only diversity. As I said, there are, for example, cultural diversities. There are, we will see better later. There are age diversities. So the fact that in the same environment there are young and old people, and maybe young people are discriminated, or maybe older people are discriminated, depending on where you are. Another thing is religious diversity. So the fact that people might come at work with different religious values. You might think it might not be an issue, but it depends on which business you are. For example, in healthcare, to be pro or con or against the abortion is, of course, a matter. So you will find other sources of diversity or other way to classify diversity, the disability, people with disabilities, for example, or sexual orientations, and so on. So basically, all this is to say that today at work, at least in some countries, including the United States, diversity is definitely um, a character of the organization. And managing diversity is extremely important. Till now, we saw the demographic diversity, but now of course, there are cultural diversity. And your book comes with a few examples. For example, the difference between individualism and collectivism. So individualism is when people believe that a society, an organization, a group is made of individuals, which basically means that it is the accumulation of individuals that makes an organization. It basically means that the organizations depends on the individuals. Collectivism is exactly the opposite, is to consider that the organization comes first and then it comes the individual. I give you an example to understand the difference. If I say, oh, Tesla would be impossible without Elon Musk, what I'm saying is the individual come first and the organization is depending on the individuals. But if I say, well, nobody is indispensable in this organization, what I mean is that the organization can survive regardless of any individual that believes or who believes be indispensable. So the organization comes first. This is an example in your book of different cultural view. Another example of cultural views are masculinity and femininity. So basically, a more muscular organization rather than I'll say, a more, I don't know what exactly is feminine organization. I would say more intelligent, but somebody might find it more gentle. Anyway, the chapter ends with an idea that the most important thing is to manage this cultural diversity, because this cultural diversity is not actually the problem, but is I would say the resource, the main resource of the organization. And then the books, there are a lot of case study exercises, but I leave these exercises to you. So I hope it was interesting to you, and I will see you next week.